Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let's all take our seats, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 25th anniversary of the National Resource Center on Native American Aging, held right here, December the 18th, 2019. I will be serving as your MC this evening, and I'm very grateful and thankful for the opportunity to do this. Man, this is a really big deal for me, and I want to thank Dr. Adamson and whoever reached out to me. Courtney, thank you guys for letting me be a part of this. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm here, and I'm glad I'm inside. I'm blessed to be here because if I wasn't here, I'd be home with a bunch of kids. I have 7 kids, and I know all of them. So we're going to have a great evening, and before we get everything started, we want to do everything appropriately. And if we could all rise, if you're able to, we're going to turn to Conchula to get our evening started off. In saying that, I know that this is one of those this is the time of the year where we're celebrating. And there may be some, heavy hearts with, a loved one that you normally spend the holiday season with. I know that back home we had a few of our tribal members that are making their journey home, and so we have a lot of heavy hearts back on our reservation, the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation. And with that being said, I know that there's been a significant movement and brought to the attention of our sisters, our missing and murdered Indigenous women, and some of our young men. So what I would like to do this evening, wherever your heart is right now, whatever is on your heart, I would like to respect that and honor that with a moment of silence, as well as our sisters for missing and murdered, and then I'll go into our prayer. Creator God, we come to you this evening. We just thank you for this time where we can come together, Heavenly Father, to celebrate 25 years of this wonderful outreach as we honor and take care of our loved ones, whether it be our children, our parents, our grandparents, Creator God. We just thank you for this evening. And if there's anyone else making their way in to the ballroom, we just ask you to give them safe travels here. Be with the ones that couldn't make it. We just thank you for this organization and all the outreach and the resources that they're providing for our loved ones, Creator God. We just thank you for this evening, and just ask you to be with all of our loved ones, whether they're with us, the ones that have journeyed home, be with their families, Creator God. We just ask you to be with the drum group and be with Post 262 as they start our evening off in a good way, Creator God, Heavenly Father. Just ask you to be with everyone in attendance today, whatever's on their heart, whatever's on their mind, that they know, and we all know, that you are Creator God, and that spiritual and that holistic movement in our innerness should always autopilot to keep us on the front line, Creator God. In your precious name we pray. Amen. If you can please remain standing at this time, I'd like to turn this portion of the program over to the Lake Region Singers of St. Michael's, North Dakota, and Spirit Lake, as they bring in our American Legion Post 262. Ho!
What?
Post 262 of Banquet, North Dakota. This evening, carrying our American flag, Richard Marcellus of the U.S. Army. Carrying our tribal flag, Bill Peterson, Navy. Carrying our North Dakota flag, Lance Azure, U.S. Army. And carrying our Legion flag, Joe Vega, Air Force and Army. American Legion Post 262, Banquet, North Dakota. Give them a round of applause. Give them a round of applause. Let them hear you. Lake Region Singers, our flag. Our veteran song. Region singers, let them hear you. Round of applause. Thank you. And let's give all of our veterans a round of applause. Let them hear you. Let them hear you. You may be seated. You may be seated. Just to acknowledge here, we have with us American Legion Post 262 of Belcourt, North Dakota. Let's give another round of applause from the U.S. Army. Richard Marcellus, carrying our American flag. Bill Peterson, Navy. Lance Azure, Army. Joe Vega, Air Force and Army. Thank you guys very much for being with us this evening. Again, if you're just now joining us, my name is Chance Rush. I'm from the 3 affiliated tribes, Hidatsa. I'm also Dakota, Arapaho, Oto, and Oneida. My parents made me a Haskell. No, I'm just joking. But it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to see a bunch of friends. I'm originally from up here, but I make my home in Tulsa, Oklahoma for the time being. And, I got a phone call from Courtney back on October the 18th. Just so you know, Courtney, I got a phone call on October 18th to be a part of this event, and I was so excited about it. And, I was sharing with the young lady earlier, just about, your outreach and your calling and the opportunities that you get to have and the awesome people that you get to meet. Drum group sounds good, don't they? Give the drum group a round of applause. Thank you for that. Lake Region, aho. Aho, Lake Region, aho. For me, it's a blessing. I got to come up here and be part of Grand Forks for the day. And you guys are crazy. First of all, if you live here, you're crazy. First of all, and I know I'm not supposed to be saying that as a guest, but it's just like, who's from here and who's not from here. If you are sprinting in to Boston Chicken Pizza, you're not from here, But if you're just walking around like, oh, yeah, hey, let's go look at this, let's go look at that, like they were on campus today at UND. I've never had the opportunity to walk around campus at a college because when I was in college, I was either running to track practice or I was running to take care of my 1-year-old. I never had the luxury of just putting a backpack on and walk around campus, so I wanted to do that today. And I was the only guy on campus with an empty backpack walking around. And as I was walking around, a lot of people weren't there. I'm thinking, well, why is no one going to school here? But it looks like some people already took off for the holidays or whatever it may be. But I was walking around campus today, and then I found myself running. And then, so I try to kill more time, here in Grand Forks. So, I was just trying to start up conversations with people. And I went inside, and they're like, how can we help you? I said, well, you can't. I'm just wanting to warm up in here, And they were like, oh, this is nothing, man. This is actually warm. I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not actually warm, Man, you came at a good time, man. It's actually not bad right now. It gets worse. It's worse. It's worse. There's nobody tell me, actually, it's actually nice at this time when it's like 3 degrees outside, And that threw me off. And so I said, well, what else can I do that's inside? I got all my work done. So I went to go find a movie, right? I went to the movie theater and, try to do all that. I got a couple conference calls in and, I told Courtney I would meet up with her at 3. Then I had a little more time and I didn't want to mix up with her time. So I went to a movie, and it took me all the way over to, first of all, it's crazy. You got to drive all the way to Minnesota to watch a movie, but I was like, wait a minute, man, Grand Forks is doing it, man. They got a Minnesota, and they said, no, this is East Grand Forks. I said, okay, are you going to be a gang about it? Is it East? So anyway, I'm just trying to fill up some time here, you know what I'm saying? But I really am honored to be here. I thank you guys for all coming out, everybody from the recipients to our funders to our supporters, whatever it may be. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service. It's so needed, all around the country. And I know that times can get hard sometimes. We can get frustrated at times, and, we can be stressed out at times. But just know, that, Tekanshala, Creator has called all of us to do something amazing, and just embrace that and enjoy that, because one thing that I've learned in my outreach is, my Creator doesn't even need me, and I know at the academy, Brad, I share that a lot with our young people. It's like, Creator he don't need me. Creator created everything, but I'm willing to be utilized. I'm willing, and I know that your success comes from you being willing, and the weary will always be taken care of, And so just keep it up. There may be someone in this room right now, you're going through something, you're dealing with something, and something may be heavy on your heart, but just know that, through that spirituality, you get through it, And I'm going to bring that word up a lot because, that's just the way that we're wired, As tribal people, we're wired this way to count on our spirituality, How else were you supposed to overcome colonization and genocide and massacres, It's that spirituality, and we all have that, It's free and it's a gift, And we not only should have it, but we should want to share it with other people. So with that being said, I see some of my bosses kind of giving me this, so we better get on with the program here. I'm very grateful to introduce this young lady, and as she makes her way up here. Hey sis, can you hand me that thing right there? Hand me that program right there. This is are you my little sister? Am I old? You're younger than me, right? Yeah, that's my little sister right there. So don't mess with me. Hey, I'm just joking. I seen her name up here. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, Twyla's up here. We're going to be here till 10:30. Just joking. I'm just joking, Twyla. I'm just joking. You can see some of these individuals on your program here. I'll try to find everybody, but if not, they'll be in here and whatnot. I don't think I have any information on this young lady, but I'm very grateful that she invited me to be a part of this. We got to keep her in our thoughts and prayers because she has a huge responsibility. She's our director of the National Resource Center on Native American Aging. Please welcome the boss lady herself, Dr. Colette Adamson. Round of applause, round of applause.
So, thank you everybody for being here. I'd like to officially welcome you to our 25th anniversary celebration for the National Resource Center on Native American Aging. I'm so honored to have you all here today to celebrate and recognize such a special program. I truly, truly feel so fortunate and blessed to be doing the work that we do every single day. I couldn't ask for a better position or better work, working for my people, especially our Native elders. This program has really given me the opportunity to go out and go into the tribal communities, not only in North Dakota, but throughout the nation, and visit with our elders and the programs, the Title VI programs, and hear their stories and to hear about their lives, about their challenges, what they go through. And it really, really makes this work worth what we're doing. I feel so fortunate to be a part of it. And I want to say that I want to thank all of the directors, the former directors, and the advocates for this program, because you guys truly built a special center. And it's built off of each one of your visions, and that's what makes it special. And we try, my staff and myself, we're trying to continue your visions and to build off of them, to bring this program into the next, up to the next level. So I truly, truly want to thank you for all of your great work and everything you've done for this program. So tonight I want to say is about just celebrating and, sharing old stories with, some of the staff that you used to work with, or the directors, just saying hi to old friends and kind of looking at the history of what has been accomplished through this center. So just enjoy yourselves, eat some good food, have some good laughs, and with that, I'd like to it's a great honor, I guess, and pleasure to introduce the next speaker, Interim UND President, Vice President for Health Affairs, and Dean of the School of Medicine and Health Sciences, Dr. Joshua Wynn.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction, and greetings to all from the University of North Dakota, particularly for our visitors who have traveled to be here. It's wonderful to celebrate with you 25 years. Wow, what a contribution. You know, my wife, Dr. Susan Farkash, is here with me, and she knows one of the phrases that I like to say because I mean it, goes something like the following. You should judge an institution or an organization not just by what it says, but by what it does. And therefore, we're very proud of our Center for Rural Health and the center that we're celebrating 25 years of contributions because of the contributions that the center and the Center for Rural Health have made not only in North Dakota, but even beyond. So we're very proud of that, and I'm particularly proud, as I mentioned in that saying, is that we're actually doing the things that we're talking about, not just saying it. I realize there's more that needs to be done, and the university looks forward to working with you to do even more. So thank you for all your contributions. Welcome to our guests, and enjoy the evening, and congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Wynn. We appreciate that. And also, I thought it was kind of cool. I was reading a little bit of your bio, and I like, you know, it's pretty cool news working with the community, legislators in the community for the UND's new $124 million School of Medicine and Health Science headquarters. So round of applause for that. Good job. Hey, not just talking, but doing, right? Not just talking, but doing. So I thought that was kind of cool. So listen, we're going to go ahead and break for dinner. And the staff asked that you don't steal the silverware or the drink or the glasses. You know, we get charged for those. Okay, just joking. But how we're going to dismiss in a good way. First of all, if there's anybody here that's unable to get up and get your plate, just let one of us know, and we'll make sure we get a plate to you. Okay, because we want to take care of you guys. First and foremost. Then we'll go ahead and we'll dismiss all of our the individuals who are going to be receiving awards. We're going to let you go, and then from there we're going to dismiss for our colors as well as our drum group, and then table. Oh man, I think our dignitaries. Yeah, so I think everybody's a dignitary, but if you're a dignitary, you go eat too, okay? And then from there, we'll just dismiss everybody. So we're going to come back in about 45 minutes, but we're going to have a very great presentation by Dr. Warren. So with that being said, hey, also, let's give it up for our sound. Let's give them a round of applause, man. All right, good job, guys. Thank you. And they've been here all day setting up, and one thing I requested was some Christmas music, man, because we've just been busy all month. We forget that it's Christmas time, you know, so let's just enjoy Christmas tonight, okay? So we'll dismiss for dinner, and we'll come back in about 45 regular minutes. Thank you. All right, let's give our staff a round of applause for the food. We appreciate that. Woo-wee. Man, I was trying to hold off. I was trying to see how many apple pies I could eat, but hey, about 10 years ago, I could probably throw down about 16 of them. Now I could just probably do like 1.6 now, you know. We're going to move right along in our program. If you haven't got the program, which everybody should, because I know Courtney did a great job putting everything together, kind of just stick to the script. There's a few people weren't able to make. I know Dr. Russ McDonald was unable to make it this evening, but other than that, we should be pretty good to go here. I've had the privilege of knowing this gentleman for some time, and what I really love about Dr. Donald Warren is that he's real grounded and, you know, real humble, and, you know, in a healthy way, real Indian. You know, he really cares about his people. He really cares about health initiatives and things like that. And, you know, I know if I went to school for however many years it takes to go to school to become a doctor, I'd be bougie and acting a certain way all the time, you know. But, You know, you'll never get that from, Dr. Warren or a lot of other doctors that I know, such as Colette and Twyla and, all that, But I'm really proud of you, Dr. Warren. I know that we go back a lot of years, and, to be able to work with you and your brother and share the stage and do all of that, it really means a lot to me. So I would like to introduce this gentleman here and turn this portion over to him. I don't think he's in here because they said, well, everybody should just know who he is anyway. No, I'm joking. So Dr. Donald Warren is a member of the Oglala Lakota tribe based out of Pine Ridge, South Dakota. He's the director of Indian Medicine, director of Master Public Health, associate dean of Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion, and professor of the Department of Family and Community Medicine at the University of North Dakota School of Medicine and Health Science. He earned his doctorate medicine degree from Stanford and completed his residency at the Good Samaritans Regional Medical Center in Phoenix, Arizona. He earned his master's of public health from Harvard. And he can go on. We can go on and on. But I do remember when he was down in Sackatoon, Arizona, and he was. It even says it right there with Gila River Healthcare Corporation. And just on and on. He serves as chair of the Department of Public Health at North Dakota State University. He currently serves as the adjunct professor at the University of Nebraska Medical Center and Stanford University, Sanford. University of South Dakota Medical School, adjunct clinical professor at Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law, Indian Legal Program at Arizona State University. And then not only that, but he's also a national board member of trustees for March of Dimes, the Health Disparities Subcommittee for Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, and the National Advisory Committee for Rural Health and Human Services with the Department of Health and Human Services. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome. We're very grateful to have you tonight, Dr. Donald Warren, Oglala Lakota, Ahu.
Thank you. Hello, thank you, and welcome to all my relations here tonight. I'm very honored to be here and to be a part of these important discussions as we honor our elders. And I'm also so pleased to see so many people I really admire a great deal. A lot of dignitaries. Richard Marcellet, part of the Color Guard, is also Senator Marcellet, former tribal chairman. And when I was working at the Tribal Chairman's Health Board in Rapid City, he was one of the tribal chairmen I worked with very closely. So wonderful to see you here. And also, thank you very much. Yeah. And of course, Mayor Brown from right here in Grand Forks, was so honored to have you here, and President Wynn as well, so thank you both. But of course, the real boss, my wife, Maylin, is right here. Yeah. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Well, I just wanted to talk briefly about some of the work that we're doing, focusing on the impact of trauma and our history on our health challenges, but also resilience and the fact that our communities and our cultures are so strong. There's a great deal of strength and protection within our culture, and what Chance was talking about earlier, that strength of connectedness to spirituality. So we'll just briefly talk about trauma and resilience and implications for American Indian elder health. This picture on the left is actually my great-great-grandfather. He was Chief Stabber from what is now called Kyle, South Dakota, where I'm from originally. Back then it was called the Medicine Root region, or Prejutahaka in Lakota. And this picture is actually from 1872. And back at this time frame, there's a delegation of Oyate, Lakota and Dakota chiefs who went to Washington, D.C. as they were kind of negotiating settlements and treaties and reservations. So I like to think that I've got a long history of advocacy in my own family, and that's a picture from Washington, D.C. with my great-great-grandfather, Chief Stabber. On the right, that's my grandfather, Louis Stabber, Chief Stabber's grandson, and my grandmother, Eva Stabber, and a big, giant baby who will go nameless for the moment. And that's in Rapid City, South Dakota. So in my family, we do have a strong connectedness to tradition and culture, and many people don't realize, but there was a time frame when our ceremonies and our traditional ways were made illegal. There was actually what was called the Code of Indian Offenses, and it made even things like the Sundance against the law beginning in the mid-1880s. And it wasn't until 1978 when we had the Indian Religious Freedom Act that allowed our ceremonies to be legal again. But I love this picture. You can see up on the top left, Chief Stabber was one of our Sundance chiefs way back in the 1880s. And we call ourselves in Oyate the Seven Council Fires, the Ochete Shakui. So there's 4 Dakota council fires, 2 Nakota, and 1 Lakota, the Titanoan. And I'm Oglala within the Titan Lakota. So historically, there were 4 Dakota representatives in the 7 council fires, 2 Nakota and 1 Lakota. But the numbers have really changed a lot. There's more Lakotas now, but there's a reason for that in our history. If you look at the distribution of our people now, it's kind of throughout this region, even into what we call Canada. Of course, we didn't draw the line between US and Canada historically. That line was drawn for us. But you can see, even now, it was wonderful to have Spirit Lake represented for the drums and the beautiful job that they did starting us off this evening. So we also share this space with Mandan, Hidatsa, Arikara, and of course with the Anishinaabe, but now the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians. And this whole region really is sacred. And you know, I've worked in different parts of the country before, but I've been here back in the Dakotas now for more than a decade. And I get asked all the time, you know, why do you work in Grand Forks, North Dakota? You know, other places you can work. And as I understand from Chance, I guess it's cold. Is that right, Chance? Yeah, okay, yeah. But the reason is that it's because this is where I am from. This is where our people are from. And I like to think about the history here and the strength of our people who could survive these winters without the same types of comforts that we have today. And they could survive through these challenges and the strength and the resilience that it would take for that. And I always like to think about our elders, and we have 1,000 generations of elders praying for us, 1,000 generations of elders looking out for us, because this really is our homeland as Indigenous peoples. Of course, now when we look at the distribution of population, there are some lines drawn, but they're in dotted lines, because our peoples connected well historically. We did work collaboratively, even across tribal nations. And of course, this is what we have now in terms of the tribal nations here in North Dakota. Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara to the west, Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa to the north, Spirit Lake Nation to the west of us, and then to the south, part of Sisseton, Wahpeton, Oyate, which is Dakota, and Standing Rock tribe, which is Lakota. So we still have a presence here in the state of North Dakota. And when we look at our population, we're by far the largest minority population within the state. But I think there's much work to do to recognize the value and the contributions of not just our elders, but our culture and our history and the vital role that we play here in this region as Indigenous peoples. So historically, the Lakota were further west, Dakota were further east. And the reason there's less Dakota now is because they really absorbed the brunt of colonization. Colonization came from the east. So we wind up almost having a challenge in terms of looking at the Dakota tribes are pushed further west. And historically, they occupied what is now the western half of Minnesota. So you can see where Grand Forks is and where Minneapolis is on this map as well. So Grand Forks is a very special place, and a lot of people don't realize it, but this was a gathering point for our peoples. And you could actually take a canoe from Red Lake, go to the Red Lake River, and meet here in Grand Forks and take that canoe straight up north into Lake Winnipeg. So you may have been to Winnipeg and seen the Forks, right? That's another gathering point. The Assiniboine River meeting the Red River. Assiniboine is now what we call the Nakota people. So it really is the Nakota River meeting the Red River heading north, or Ludtke in Dakota. So this is a sacred place. And I always like to remind people that it's not just the name of a city. This is a gathering point that really did have significant meaning to our people. And, you know, we talk about North Dakota, right? That's a tribe. A lot of times you say North Dakota, not even realizing that we're talking about a tribal group. Or when we say Minnesota, how many people know what the word Minnesota means? Is that people who've heard me talk before know it, but I guess I talk about this a lot. But Minnesota actually comes from two Dakota words. Mni means water, and Shota means cloudy or smoky. So a Mani Shota is actually when the smoke rises off of the water. So we see that in this time of year. Of course, it's a little bit icier now than it was just a couple weeks ago. But this is a gathering point. And every time I cross over that bridge, I think to myself what that must have looked like and how beautiful that must have been with 1,000 teepees, 10,000 people gathered here in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And a Mani Shosha literally means cloudy water, like the Red River. And a Mani Shota is literally the clouds rising off of the water. So the land of the Mani Shota is Minnesota, right? So I'm sure you've heard the term Minneapolis before, right? Every time you say Minneapolis, you're being bilingual, but in this case, Dakota and Greek, right? Mani is water, and polis is Greek for city. So every time you say Minneapolis, you're saying water, city, and Dakota Greek. So pat yourself on the back for being so good at bilingualism. It's wonderful. So the land of the Mani Shota, and again, the dotted lines, because our peoples really did work more cooperatively in many years ago. But now when we look at the state of Minnesota, there's only 4 Dakota tribes left. There was what was called the Dakota War in the 1880s that actually pushed many of the Dakotas further west into what is now even in Spirit Lake and into Sisseton-Wahpeton. Historically, those tribal groups were in what is now Minnesota. So of the 11 tribes, there's only 4 Dakota tribes left in Minnesota. So Upper Sioux, Lower Sioux, Shakopee, and Prairie Island. And then the bigger tribes to the north are representatives of the Anishinaabe people, our close friends and allies. I love this old map. And I've looked at this for many years, and the image that I see when I look at the eastern border of Minnesota, do you guys see that? Do you see that profile of the Plains chief looking out for us, looking over us, protecting us, that elder? And I feel like that's not by accident. I feel like there's that connectedness to history, and it's right in front of us even when we don't see it. And it's a beautiful part of our history, and I think it's also a part of our culture in which we need to better understand. We have a lot of lessons to learn in modern medicine from traditional culture and from traditional ways, and looking at ways to stay healthy and balanced. But of course, we have a lot of challenges that face us. We unfortunately have a very low life expectancy, so we have a less proportion of elders because our people die so young. Average age at death in North Dakota is 81 for the general population. It's about 57 for American Indians. So terrible disparity in average age at death for American Indians. I'm 53, so I guess I'm getting to my longevity. I don't want it to be that way, but that's just the numbers that we're facing. And in the United States, there's only 7 states now that have at least 3% American Indian or Alaska Native population. And I apologize to my Alaska Native friends. I know Alaska is not off the coast of California, but this is the best map that I have here. But there's only those 7 states now: Alaska, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Arizona, Minnesota, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. And there's a reason for this, and it's because colonization came from the east. And if colonization had come from the west, the map would be reversed, right? And we even see that right here in Grand Forks, the line between what is now North Dakota and Minnesota. A lot of the tribes were pushed across this side of the Red River. So when I think about this, there's a lot of trauma associated with this. There's a lot of loss associated with loss of territory, loss of land, loss of food systems, loss of economies, loss of traditions, loss of language. But we're still here. And we're still strong, and we're still connected to our culture. And it's those lessons we learn from our elders in terms of understanding the value and the importance of language and culture that really does keep us here and keep us alive. But I've put a lot of time into looking at this and trying to understand why we have such terrible health disparities. Why do our people die at such a young age? And we have a history of trauma, right? We have attempts at genocide. Some of our tribal nations, particularly in the East, were essentially wiped out because of warfare and from disease. So there's a lot of trauma built into our DNA. There's a field called epigenetics. Some of you may have heard of that. But we know that when people are exposed to toxic stress, it can actually change their DNA. And there's been animal models that show that stress-induced epigenetic changes can pass from one generation to the next. And I really feel that that's going to be a scientific basis for us to better understand historical trauma. On top of that, we've had a history of boarding schools. And when I talk about boarding schools, it's not the the country club boarding schools that our parents paid for because they were wealthy. These are forced boarding school experiences, which were horrible in many cases. There's a lot of abuse. And this isn't 500 years ago. My mother, who is now 81, she is a survivor of boarding schools herself. And she still doesn't want to talk about some of those challenges that she faced. But her whole generation of elders, many of them experienced very directly these terrible traumas. This is a picture from the Carlisle Indian School in Pennsylvania. And I'm sure many of you have heard of Carlisle. It's one of the more famous Indian schools where a lot of people, even from this region, were taken by train more than 1,000 miles away to boarding school. And unfortunately, many of the children died there and never came home. And there's a trauma, an emotional and spiritual trauma associated with that dynamic as well. And with all the loss of land and territory, we also had loss of food systems. So we became dependent on government food programs, including WIC, Women, Infants, and Children. When I was working as a full-time clinician in Arizona, the WIC program was basically an infant formula distribution center, just handing out baby formula. And we know that formula-fed babies are less healthy than breastfed babies. And this really was imposed on us as part of colonization. FDPIR, that's the Food Distribution Program on Indian reservations. That's the commodity food program. And that's where unfortunately, a lot of unhealthy food comes from and causes even more stress. Now, when we think of traditional foods, a lot of us think of fry bread, right? Fry bread is not traditional American Indian food. We never fried dough. We've acculturated it, we've adopted it. Every time I go home for a ceremony or for a feast, there's an expectation that there will be fry bread. And I ask, well, why is that? Because it's traditional. It's like, well, no, it's not. It's not our tradition, right? So if you want to call it traditional, it's traditional USDA food, not traditional American Indian food. And you can see the elder on the right. She's actually using commodity flour and commodity shortening to make fry bread. So I wonder about the epigenetic impact and the stress on the body induced by these unhealthy foods that in many ways are poisonous to us. It's just some pictures of commodity foods, some sort of spam-like meat products. I'm not exactly sure what those were. There used to be grape juice that they would distribute. It was basically sugar water with purple food coloring. I remember as a kid, my siblings and cousins, we'd all have that kind of grape juice smile from drinking the cup. All the kids had that. But I wonder about the negative impact of that. On the right, that's a huge bottle of pure corn syrup. And if you look very closely, it says on the label, use in your baby formula. Use in your pancakes. So we've had entire generations of our people growing up exposed to some of these real challenges and these stressors. We also know that adverse childhood experiences have an impact on poor health outcomes as an unresolved trauma. It doesn't end at age 18. We have adverse adulthood experiences, unfortunately. We still see toxic stress in our communities. I wish it wasn't a part of our society, but we still see racism. I wish we didn't, but it's still a part of the environment in which our people live. The ecology of our people includes these challenges. And then what happens for the next generation? What have the children learned about parenting for the next generation? So when I see this, I see a lot of challenges, but I also see a lot of areas for intervention. And that's really what we're focusing on here through our programs in Indigenous health, through Indians into Medicine and other programs. We're trying to expand our research portfolio to really look at these issues as the root causes of some of our challenges. But I think it's important to also focus on our resilience. We have so much strength within our culture, and there's so much protective, effective connectedness to culture. In Lakota, there's not really a word directly for resilience. It's a much more descriptive type of language. So when we're talking about resilience, we say, Ithatea naji. Ithatea naji. That means to stand in the wind, to stand facing the wind. And we learned a lot from our animal brothers and sisters, and I just love this image. When the blizzards come right here in North Dakota or in Minnesota, the strongest bulls stand in front and face the wind and protect the rest of the herd. And that's our job. That's what we are supposed to do. Those of us who are fortunate enough to be able to get education, those of us who are fortunate enough to be able to do this work. So I applaud the 25 years of the National Resource Center on Native American Aging really being that strong bison facing the wind and addressing these challenges that we're dealing with. I always like to end these discussions with a quote from Black Elk. Black Elk was a Lakota spiritual leader and medicine man from the late 1800s. In the early 1900s, he met with a writer named John Neihardt, and together they wrote the book called Black Elk Speaks. This is my favorite quote from him. "Of course, it was not I who cured. It was the power from the outer world, and the visions and ceremonies had only made me like a hole through which the power could come to the two-leggeds. If I thought that I was doing it myself, the hole would close up and no power could come through." And what he's talking about is humility and recognizing that as soon as he believes that he owns the healing power, he loses access to it. And that's what I was brought up with. I have a lot of uncles who are medicine men and traditional healers, and humility really is that core value, that we're just a conduit for healing energy. We're not owners of that healing power. And in many ways, it's very different than our modern approach. And I'm so happy to see we have all kinds of curriculum revisions going on in medical school, but we're also looking at issues related to society, issues related to culture, that we're building into the curriculum. I'm just so honored to be a part of all of that here at the School of Medicine and Health Sciences. And the core value I learned from a cultural perspective is humility. And I was very fortunate to go to Stanford for medical school. And it probably won't surprise you that the core value at Stanford Medical School was not humility. But for me, every time I would walk into a patient's room, I would think to myself, what an honor that this person would allow me to be a part of their healing process. And now with students, I think to myself, what an honor that these students would allow me to be a part of their learning process. And that's part of who we are culturally, that's part of who we are historically, and that's really part of what we need to recapture and recognize that we have to honor our elders and recognize that they've been through a lot of challenges in terms of history, in terms of less opportunity than we have today, but recognizing also how beautiful our cultures are as Indigenous peoples to this region right here in what we call Grand Forks, North Dakota. But when I look at these old pictures of our elders, I wonder, what do they think now? What are their thoughts about what we're doing? What could we do to make our elders even more proud? And what are the things that we need to do to teach our children as we move on into the future? And what kind of world are we going to leave behind to ensure that the next generations can be even more healthy? And let us remember that we all drink from the same stream of consciousness. We're all connected by that same stream of consciousness. We are all related. What we do to each other, we do to ourselves. Act kindly toward my people, for my people are your people. Aho, pilami ayalo, mitakuye oyasi. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. We appreciate that. Man, well, that's one thing I really enjoy about listening to his presentations and sometimes even just talking to him. He's kind of got that real cool voice, like that audiobooks voice. Real cool. I like that about him. Thank you for that, and just the best of luck and the best of wishes in your outreach, health disparities, and being aware of our culture, and the parts that we have to play, and that is true. To consummate all of us, we all bleed the same blood, so we all have to continue to be family. That's one thing that I've learned, over the years through listening to presentations like that is, if you work in our community, if you live in our community, then you are our community, So grateful that we can, you can share that tonight about all of us being one. Hey, without further ado, I'd like to call upon this gentleman here, if Mr. Brad Gibbons can make his way up here. He's the Deputy Director, Center for Rural Health, UND School of Medicine and Health Science. Let's give him a round of applause as I call him up here. He's going to be introducing a video of 25 years of the National Resource Center on Native American Aging. So, Mr. Gibbons, I turn this portion of the program over to you, sir.
Very good, thank you. Very good. And I don't have an audio book voice, so what I'm going to do is basically give an intro, and then we're going to watch the video. And then after that, I learned a new word. We have basically an outro. So I will talk a little bit about after that. I did not know that was a thing. But to get started, in 1989, Dr. Leigh Jeanotte of American Indian Student Services teamed up with the Center for Rural Health and the UND Gerontology Resource Center on a project funded by the Administration on Aging. The collaboration focused on providing technical assistance and conducting research to improve the lives of Native elders. Jumping forward to 1994, the National Resource Center on Native American Aging was officially named and became part of the Center for Rural Health, where it resides today. Out of 30 or more programs that operate through the Center for Rural Health, the National Resource Center is our second oldest, or our oldest. We had that debate when we were looking at, is this the 25th anniversary or is it more? We decided that it's the 25th because that's when the official name came out and it's when the program was integrated into the Center for Rural Health. But really its beginnings are a few years before that. So we can have more, we can have as many anniversaries as we want when you think about it, which is good. In the early years of the National Resource Center, Dr. Allery and Dr. Richard Ludtke were the driving forces that created the foundation for the project. Allery's leadership skills and political savvy, coupled with Ludtke's extensive experience in community engagement, training, and research, created the vision for the National Resource Center, which at its core is to improve the lives of Native elders. The center has a rich history built on strong leadership, creative thinking, and tribal relations. Although the leadership of the center has changed over the years, the philosophy of improving the lives of our Native elders has stayed the same. And now we can go to the video.
I remember when we were first planning this resource center back in the olden days, 26, 27 years ago, and at that time the University of North Dakota was the only resource center we had within the Title VI program.
We really want to look at what were some of the social issues, okay, and then of course health is one of the major things. And at that particular time we knew that we wanted to delve into research, but I don't think we really had a good handle on that initially. A lot of people probably don't realize this, but I was actually the first director of the program. I was kind of looked at more of a temporary director. I don't even think it was a year. We decided that Alan Allery, who did have a background in healthcare, I really think he gave it a lot more impetus, direction to the program.
He grew this program, and how he grew truly Indian aging, I think, throughout the country, because he was Alan Allery and he was so well respected and received.
I really think when Alan came on board, I really think the program really developed in such a way, and he was able to work with a variety of individuals. Dr. Ludtke really stands out. I mean, he was just tremendous in giving guidance, direction, a wealth of work and attention to this particular group. And again, Alan Allery is really credited for getting him involved.
I started out there as a McNair scholar, and so I went back to sociology to my advisor who was helping me to get registered, and his name was Richard Ludtke. And he just happened to be the research director for the National Resource Center on Native American Aging. And then Alan Allery was the PI on the project. And it just so happened, unfortunately, is Alan Allery passed away. And so when he passed away, then I had some talks over back at the center, and then they asked if I could pick up the PI piece of it. At the Center for Rural Health, we had great buy-in. From the School of Medicine, we had great buy-in. And from the University of North Dakota, we had great buy-in from what I could see. So I'm there for 11 years. I didn't really see a change in the mission. I've seen a change in regard to the activities of what we were doing and how we were approaching that. The strategies for how we were going to assist the Native elder populations was changed because of technology.
We didn't know yet the value of data, but we were looking at trying to develop a data pool of some kind for the tribes to use in planning and managing their own programs. And that's how much of the work that you've been doing the last 25 years was born in response to our first thoughts about our needs for data.
Started my affiliation with the NRCNAA. I started as a graduate research assistant. I actually was approached by Dr. Russ McDonald, and he was working there at that time, and he was looking for GRAs. I moved into a research analyst position full-time after I had been working on my master's degree for a little while. And then I ended up as the director. I saw us go from a kind of a small data shop that was working with a relatively smaller amount of tribes and other indigenous nations and organizations to one that had this enormous national reach. It was really awesome to see the Resource Center kind of blossom like that. It really become a trusted partner with all of these tribal nations.
Became involved with the National Resource Center on Native American Aging around 2010 as a research specialist. Dr. Twyla Baker then was our director and a wonderful leader. I stepped in 2013. It was a rather quick transition. I had to hit the ground running, but it felt natural. I feel blessed to have worked with all the Native elders, I mean, across the nation, Alaska, Hawaii. Our funders, ACL, had been consistently generous in funding the program.
Your director now, Dr. Adamson, again, I've watched her when she was a student and first involved in this program, and how she has come to life and brought this resource center new life.
I've always felt that the predecessors of this program laid a really good foundation to continue some really good work that we could build off of. Throughout the past couple of years, developing more relationships and partnerships with other programs and entities to be able to work together to find new and innovative ways that we can help be a better resource for tribal communities, our tribal elders, our urban elders. Doing work alone is okay sometimes, but doing work together and partnerships is what makes things great. So I feel very fortunate and happy to be a part of this program, to be able to build off of that work that was done by others and to develop these partnerships with these other programs.
I've worked with all of your Resource Center directors over the years, and of course each person has put a little bit different spin and a little bit different focus on the work that you're doing, but it's been consistent that it's been to best serve Title VI programs.
We shouldn't be doing research just to do research. We shouldn't be doing research just to do papers. You know, we should be doing research in order to make things better.
Everything that we create at the Resource Center, we share. And they share their information with us. We would not have survived without sharing resources.
The work that we were doing helped to feed elders. And so that was probably one of the most fortifying things that I got to be a part of in my time there.
I think the growth that the Resource Center at University of North Dakota has gone through in the last 25 years has been pretty phenomenal. You've certainly grown from a tiny little resource center, and at first, 25 years ago in Indian country, we kind of didn't even know what a resource center was or what we could do with it.
There's such a need, and the people that are working with it, you know, probably are just so committed in working with the elderly that they should be commended. I think they're doing a great job.
We're really proud at ACL to be able to talk about the Resource Center and this data pool and the work you've done, because it's added so much to Title VI. You've chosen well, North Dakota. You've done very well in managing this Resource Center.
That was very nice. I really enjoyed that. I want to thank Marv, who's our communications director, for putting that together. That was good. Really well done. So now we do the outro. So the Center for Rural Health is proud to be associated with the National Resource Center on Native American Aging. We contributed to its development and growth through the community focus and research skills provided first by Dr. Ludtke and by being an organizational incubator and haven for the Resource Center. We have been its home for all those years. And in an office with about 30 programs and funding sources, it's just been really wonderful to have that as part of the center. The mission of the Center for Rural Health is connecting resources and knowledge to strengthen the health of people in rural communities. And certainly the National Resource Center on Native American Aging has been doing this for more than 25 years, or 29 or 30. The National Resource Center works closely with applied research and community engagement to translate research and findings into services. I want to stress that. It takes applied research and combines that with community engagement and translates those findings into services. Because that's really what research of that nature, of applied research, is. It's research that's oriented toward creating a solution that people can use. And what the Resource Center does when it does surveys of all of the reservations that it has worked with, and I want to point out of roughly 565 reservations in this country, 570, Jackie always keeps me up on how many reservations there are. But this group over those years has worked with roughly 350 of them. Isn't that amazing? So it gets data, real data from the people living at those reservations, turns it around, analyzes it, works with the tribes to help them understand what it says, and then those tribes use that data in order to secure funding that can provide nutritional services to Native elders. That's what this Resource Center does, along with many other things, but I think that's quite special. The National Resource Center staff and faculty listen to the elders, they listen to the tribes, and they listen to the community. That is the key of their success, and the Center for Rural Health proudly contributes to that experience. I am also proud to have worked with all of the directors, from Alan to Colette. As another aside, and this is what makes Courtney nervous, is when I go off script. But I do want to point out, Colette's laughing, I do want to point out, probably many of you, maybe most of you, knew Alan Allery. How many of you knew Alan Allery? Yeah, this makes sense. And if you knew Alan Allery, you have anywhere from 1, 2 to 15 stories about Alan Allery. I have stories about Alan Allery. I'm not going to share them. But also, since I've known all of these directors, which is scary for them, but I also have Twyla stories. I have Russ stories. I have Paula stories. I have stories on Dr. Ludtke. And Colette, I'm gathering stories on you too. So if you want to know stuff, ask me before I forget. So I had the privilege of seeing the National Resource Center directors develop from students to staff to academics. Every one of them got a start in the Resource Center as a student and stayed there and got their master's and their PhD. And then they became directors. And then they left and did even bigger, better things. And in my 34 years of working at the Center for Rural Health, if I could pick one thing that I'm really proud of, mainly because I had absolutely nothing to do with it, is that I watched these people develop and go on to do greater things. And when you're at an academic institution, I'm looking at Dr. Wynn when I say this, what better sense of accomplishment than to see people develop themselves and go on. So I think that's amazing. So my final thought, and I'm not surprised with their success. Each has their own voice, but all have a common harmony of giving back, developing others, and improving the lives of Native people. So at this point in time, I am done, and I'm going to turn it over to my boss, Dr. Gary Hart, who's the director of the center, and Colette, who I think are going to do the awards, if I'm understanding the order. So as Gary's coming up here, I'll just say Dr. Hart's been our director for about 10 years now. He comes to us with an extensive background in research, in applied research. He's an expert in health workforce, an expert in primary care, and he brought that to the center, for which we're very proud. And I've had, and I am getting stories on you, this distinct pleasure of watching her just truly develop, and I'm very proud of you and everybody tonight. So with that, I am done.
You're actually introducing all the awardees.
Oh, I thought Gary was doing that.
Twyla and Paula.
Okay, can I do this? Okay. We obviously did not rehearse this. Okay, so I will do the first one. And they were so anxious they thought I was done. The first recipient will be a family member or something this.
Brad's a gift that keeps giving.
Yes, exactly. For Dr. Leigh Jeanotte, who is an enrolled citizen of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians. Dr. Jeanotte retired from the University of North Dakota in 2007, but his legacy and dedication to American Indian students and programs still is felt today. Leigh gave about 40 years of service to UND, but more importantly, he stood up and was there, always there for Native American students, staff, and faculty. I have known Leigh personally shortly since after I came to the University of North Dakota in 1985. Leigh is a man of integrity, principle, gentle guidance, and leadership, a great heart with great compassion. In 1994, Dr. Jeanotte served as the inaugural director of the National Resource Center on Native American Aging before Dr. Alan Allery took over the summer of 1995. The effort at UND started as a collaboration between the UND Office of Native American Programs, the UND Center for Rural Health, and the UND Resource Center on Gerontology. So, now. Oh. Can you do that?
We'd like to invite Dr. Jeanotte's daughter to come up and accept his award.
Hi, my name is Sean Eglin, and thank you for inviting me to accept this award. I appreciate that. My dad is actually enjoying his retirement in Albuquerque right now, so I didn't think that I would come up and talk. So after dinner, I stepped out to call my dad and ask him if there's anything he wanted me to say. And you all know how my dad is. He's very, very organized, and he said, well, I'm getting an MRI right now. I said, okay. I said, that's fine. As we sat here and you guys spoke, I got a text from him, very long, and then he called, and then he texted my daughter. So I'm just going to read what he told me to read, and we'll go from there. I'm sorry for not being able to attend this momentous event in celebrating the 25th anniversary of the National Resource Center on Native American Aging. Quite honestly, I certainly didn't think this wonderful program would continue for this long of time period. However, this is truly a very nice gesture for recognizing me for the small part that I played in the program. The credit should be really directed to Alan Allery and others for their involvement and commitment. This has been a truly great initiative that has impacted the lives of so many American Indian elders that are often forgotten. Once again, I congratulate the current program personnel for their fantastic job that they are doing. I only hope there will be another 25 years to celebrate a 50th anniversary. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I wish you all well.
Thank you.
Alan Allery, Master's in Education, MHA, PhD, was the director and driving force behind the National Resource Center on Native American Aging for many years. He propelled this project forward and always sought to improve the lives of Native elders through opportunities provided by the National Resource Center. The project would not be where it is today without Alan's creative thinking, ideas, grant writing abilities, relationships he built within this project. I personally added this. He also had a great sense of humor. If you knew Alan, he had a great sense of humor. Alan is a fallen member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa, and somebody from his family is here to receive the award. Okay, please come forward.
I'm Catherine Allery, Alan's wife. I'm not sure what he would have to say, but I'm sure he'd get everybody laughing, at least for a little while anyway. But I just want to say thank you so much for remembering him and for all his contributions. You know, when someone passes away, one of your fears is that they'll be forgotten. And I'm just so thrilled and so grateful for you asking me to come to this tonight. And Alan's daughter, she came here from Minneapolis, Duluth, Washington, D.C., so very glad that she could come and be with us. You want to say anything?
I would just add that obviously we all hoped that he would still be alive to be here for this event, and it's a great loss for all of us, but thank you so much again for honoring him.
Thank you.
These are who's accepting.
Oh, I see. I didn't have that. Very good. Dr. Rick Ludtke is a retired faculty member and former chair of the Department of Sociology. With 38 years of experience in teaching and research, he also passionately worked as research director with the National Resource Center on Native American Aging for 14 years at the Center for Rural Health. Rick helped develop the Identifying Our Needs, a survey of elders, which assesses the needs of American Indians, Alaskan Natives, and Hawaiian Native elders throughout the nation to assist tribal communities with planning and grant applications. More than 340 tribes have used Dr. Ludtke's process on a local level to conduct needs assessments in their communities. And Rick is here, so I asked Rick to come forward. Please. One brief moment of privilege. I likely would not be here doing whatever it is I do adequately without someone like Dr. Rick Ludtke. Rick was one of my mentors. I learned from him all the time. His commitment to community and understanding the importance of community is really what shaped the Center for Rural Health and the National Resource Center. So.
I don't have a great deal to say. I was just a small cog in a big wheel. The best experience of my academic life was this resource center, without question. We had a marvelous collaborative group. And I always think we need to give more credit to the communities that logged in with us, because without them we would be toast. And I'd like to say that Alan was the visionary, and he would put pressure on me, and if the pressure got really tough, I'd lean on Russ. So thank you much.
Thank you. Okay. Dr. Leander Russ McDonald, none of us know Russ as Leander, so sometimes people would say that, and everybody would go, who is that? Anyway, Russ is an enrolled citizen of Spirit Lake Tribe in North Dakota. From 2003 until 2008, Dr. McDonald served as an assistant professor at the Center for Rural Health at the UND School of Medicine and Health Science, and as the director of the National Resource Center on Native American Aging from 2006 to 2008. He is an alumnus of both the UND Upward Bound and McNair programs. He received his bachelor's and master's degree in sociology from the University of North Dakota in 1988 and 2000, and a PhD in Educational Foundations and Research from UND in 2003. Russ also served as the Vice President for Academics at Changdeska Community College at Fort Totten, North Dakota. In 2014, United Tribes Technical College named Russ as its president, succeeding David Gipp, who served as the UTTC president for 37 years. And if there's probably anybody that can fall into those shoes and lead forward, it's Russ. I enjoyed developing a friendship with Russ. He was truly one of my favorite people. And as an aside, I'll also say, and I hope this does not get me in trouble, but I grew up on a farm in rural North Dakota, about 35 miles away from where Russ grew up. So I grew up as a farm kid, and he grew up as a res kid. And we talked, and we got to know each other, we learned from each other, and we had so much commonalities, even though he was from the res and I was from the farm. So I learned a tremendous amount from Russ, and hopefully he learned a little bit from me too. You know, when we would share kind of cultural identity things and see what was in common. So Russ was supposed to be here, but unfortunately he was not able to make it. But Brad Hawk will step forward to receive the award for Russ.
Yeah, I think Russ was would have loved to have been here tonight. I work with him quite a bit because we're right there in Bismarck, and I'll for sure take this and carefully deliver it back to Bismarck to him. But you know, a lot of us know Russ here in the room, and his humility and his personality is really addicting, you know, because he's just a person that you can just reach out and talk to, and I like that about how he goes about leading that way too. And so when we work with United Tribes Technical College in Bismarck, we really ask him to do a lot for us, and he gracefully does that. So I'll gratefully take this back for him. Thank you.
We sort of divided these up. I've been here for 10 years, and so I'm introducing the people who've been the directors of it for the 10 years since I've got here. Twyla worked with us for quite a while, and she's left. It's interesting. I figured out the other day that if I ever lose my job and I want to get another job, I'll have to go to Twyla for it, and she'll be my boss. So, but that would be a good thing, I think. She's now the president, and they can't say this right, so can you say it? I can't say the name of the school very well. Nuita. Right. In short, you're just doing that to me. She's always done things to me. NHSC. And so we appreciate it. I think Brad will actually know this. How many of the former directors of the center are presidents of universities and or close to that?
Of the research center,
yeah. Two.
Become presidents of tribal colleges.
Yeah.
And then Cindy Changdeska was never part of the research center, but she was part of the Center for Rural Health. So 3 of the college chairs for presidents come from work at the Center for Rural Health.
So if you're going to measure things that happened actually and were really valuable, was the development of a whole cadre of folks that are going out and doing education for Native peoples, and so that's exciting. Twyla, I'm just trying to remember whatever things just brought to mind. Unlike my partner here, who adds all the stuff in between the sentences, I just do the lead sentences. But she was always very, very good with our folks, and if I was going to give her an award, it'd be for having all those kids. I got 2, and it's been more than my life can handle. And she managed to get through school, run a center successfully, and she's still alive and looks just like she did in the films from so many years ago. It's just found the fountain of youth somewhere in all there. In any event, we want to thank her for all the help she's done. Come on up.
Well, Brad said that he's got Twyla stories. I have Brad's stories. I just remember my time at the Center for Rural Health, and I'm sure a lot of my colleagues in the room can remember his famous line of, at staff meetings, just a couple things real quick. And 45 minutes later, no, it's
changed that now. Now it's 90 seconds.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm just so pleased. I'm so pleased to be a part of this legacy, and really watching the film and knowing that what felt like at that time a bunch of little things that we were doing, a bunch of the little small efforts and small bits and pieces of work, even processing those singular surveys one at a time, it all built up over time to this enormous body of work that we're all here celebrating now. And I'm always so proud of what we've done at the Resource Center and what continues to happen at the Resource Center, the impact that it has for Indigenous elders. Because my dad's an elder and I'm home, and I went home in particular to take care of him, not just to work at the tribal college, but to kind of put, where the rubber meets the road, is that the expression? To go and take what I knew and put it into action for my own family members. And it's so amazing to think of what has happened throughout the tenure of that time. I remember Cynthia, you running around with the hair flipping all over the place at the Title VI meetings. We always knew you were going somewhere because that hair was just flashing all over the place, and she's just so busy and such an enormous spirit and advocate for Indigenous elders across the nation, across Turtle Island and beyond. And I do remember the Center for Rural Health is really where I got my feet under me for leadership. And Russ was one of those ones that pushed me and helped me to get my voice. Rick was one of those ones who helped me to do that as well, because they'd push me unwillingly sometimes into the work that we were doing, knowing and believing even before I did that I was capable of doing it. All I would get from Russ would be that lip point, you go do it, you go say it. I remember writing testimony. Cynthia even did it to me one time. We were in DC, and remember we were talking about elder abuse, the Elder Abuse Initiative, and going up, and the secretary of such and such, some bigwig was there. We're gathering testimony, and Cynthia's like, Twyla, we need you to go and speak. And I was like, okay, well, how long do I have? Oh, about 10 minutes from now. So I wrote my testimony on a napkin right then and there, and I delivered that testimony because it wasn't about me, it was about the elders. And it's so fortifying to do that kind of work when you can see it have an impact, a real impact in your communities. And this is just icing on the cake. And I'm so glad, and I can't wait to see what else happens in the next 25 years. So thank you very, very much.
Well, I've got one more to do here, and it's Paula Carter, who left the center how long ago? 2 years? 2 years, okay. And she deserted us. No, you didn't desert us, did you? I have to tell a story, my favorite story about Paula, and I tell people this all the time, and this is not trivial. Paula has the ability, I noticed it when I first came to the center, Paula has the ability to make a room go calm. I mean, like I've never seen before. In fact, I used you all the time. Do you know I used you? I had to admit it. Anytime I was going to have a meeting and I knew there were a couple of people in it who were going to cause a lot of grief, I'd invite you. Because when you were there, people had a hard time raising their voices because it's so calm when you're somewhere. And I think we all have used her that way before. And we really appreciate that. I mean, it's a gift. It really is a gift Not everybody has that. We certainly have a lot of people who have the opposite effect, in fact. But we appreciate you. Paula was a director of the center for what, 4 years? Okay, yes, I'm not guessing. This is what was written to me by my writer here. And you are also the Bush Foundation. That's Twyla I'm dropping back to. Shouldn't be looking at that. Chippewa. I don't want to read all those things. Just talk about real things. Anyway, you're in Montana. You ever going to come back? Okay, we want to know that. Good. Anyway, we appreciate her. She's done a lot of work for the center, just like all the directors. And nobody gets off being a director of the center without doing a lot of work. And they were all here. They testified to that in unison. And so we appreciate the work that Twyla's done and the others that have been introduced and that Paula's given. So we'd like to thank you and give you a memento of our appreciation for all you've done.
This is beautiful. Thank you for not being a paper certificate. I have plenty of those. This is great. And this is,
she'd appreciate it better more.
right. And this is going to take a while. You should have put some chairs up here. No, I'm joking. I'll try to keep it short. I tend to talk a lot, but at the same time, I try to throw some nuggets out there for people, because as a Native elder, I think about survivability and how did we survive? We survived by banding together, sharing resources, and teaching one another. That's how we did it. There's so many people in this room tonight that I need to thank. I can go from table to table. I never did anything on my own without the help of our community at Turtle Mountain, the Center for Rural Health community, the National Resource Center, have all been nurturing communities. I don't know if Dr. Wynn is still here. Yeah, there he is. I have to thank him. I'll start with him. When I first became director, I think it was Brad or Dr. Hart, we always, like I said, with my sis, Cynthia, they were always generous to give us as much funding as as they could, but we needed matching funds. So I was told one day, well, you're gonna have to go to Dr. Wynn's office and ask for that. Now, if you can imagine how many people come into Dr. Wynn's office every day asking for something, right? And how busy he is. So we had just a few minutes, right? And I was so intimidated. I thought, what if, what's gonna happen there? So Wendy, Miss Wendy, who is part of the backbone of the Center for Rural Health, said, I'll go with you. So I said, okay, let's go. We only have a few minutes, So we took off. I kind of pushed her up front, right? But ultimately I had to say something. So I think Dr. Wynn he wanted the gist of it. What are you asking for, And he was wide open to what I said. And I said, ultimately, what we're asking for matching funds for is to put meals on Native elders' table. That's all he had to hear. We signed a couple here and there, and it was done. And I knew at that point that we had the support to do just that, put those meals on our Native elders' tables, train caregivers in Indian country to take care of their elders. And as a Native elder, to me, that is even more critical now. And so I want to thank Dr. Wynn. I want to thank the Center for Rural Health and Dr. Adamson. I think that by the second day that we hired her, I thought, okay, I got to start getting her ready to be the next director. And because I knew of the passion that was there. In fact, I had to kind of temper her because she was so responsible, to tell her, you know, we got to have a little fun here too. Like my mother used to say, we're not hired by the devil, we can have a little fun. So, but, and I want to thank Dr. Warren. I tell you what, the first time I heard him speak, this would have been Sanford's first American Indian Health Research Center, their first summit in Sioux Falls, I believe. And here was Dr. Warren did a presentation, and I believe it was on tribal sovereignty and self-governance. And he doesn't realize this, but he opened my eyes to the potential we have as natives and tribes. He gave us permission that day with that podium to stand up and realize our potential. I never told him that, and I think we spoke briefly after that, but I don't think he realized how he impacted me. Because forever I have been saying this, as an elder, I have been saying this. We do have trauma. And how many years have we been told from outside entities what's wrong with us? We know what's wrong with us, but we know what's right with us. And that was the beginning of my eyes being open to the potential and the passion and the resilience in Indian country. I always knew it was there, but I couldn't put it into words until I heard that. That's what it is. It's in our DNA, right? So, you know, and then this young man, he's been an inspiration also. Because, and he talked about spirituality. You know, I've worked in communities, non-Native communities, right? We have commonalities. We have universals. When you look in someone's eyes, you see their spirit. We all have pain. We all have joy, right? Humor is another thing that has gotten us over things, right? Sometimes, my father was a storyteller. Most of his stories were humorous. He used to say BS stories sometimes, right? But there were times when we experienced things that we just finally had to laugh at, right? We had to learn to laugh at ourselves too. I was raised in a family of 14. With 9 brothers. If you couldn't take teasing, you'd be crying all day long. So humor, and so I was telling this young man, I said, on my bucket list, I got some suicide prevention ideas, right? But long story short, so I have so many people to thank. You know, when I first started school, long time ago in the 70s, right? I just got to UND, it was a fluke. Right? We didn't have money for college with 14 children. We didn't know much about college. We didn't have money saved. So Leigh Jeanotte, who was good friends with my brother, he calls up my brother one day and says, well, didn't your sister graduate from high school? So my brother comes and tells me, guess what? Tomorrow you're going to college. I'm like, what? Yeah, they need some Native students down there. So my brother always believed in education. So here I go the next morning, right? I don't even know what to take, just here you're going. So he drops me off, right? He gives me $50 out of his billful, and he tells me, don't come back till you're done. Right? So, and I was scared of him, right? So he says, find Leigh Jeanotte in the morning, find Leigh, so it was like a fluke, but at the same time, when I think about that, I think about my siblings that didn't get to come, but always worked hard, right? So I have to thank Dr. Jeanotte for that. So when I got here, you know, sometimes when you tell a Native person if they can't do something, oh my gosh, they're gonna spend their whole life trying to do it or get it done, right? So there I was. But I find now, though, when I started at the Center for Rural Health, Dr. Jackie Gray was one of the people that taught me that it takes a team. You know how it takes a village, right? To raise a child, to care for an elder. It took a team to get me to that goalpost. I was all cocky thinking, oh, I got this, right? Dissertation, yeah, I'll do that, yeah. Well, had I known what was ahead of me, it takes a team. It takes family, it takes friends, it takes colleagues, it takes people like this that, you know, supported me and you know, brought me through the finish line. Twyla was my boss, right? And she's a tough act to follow, right? I'm telling you, her community was calling her every day. Hey, Twyla, when are you going to get that degree? We need you back here, right? Well, you know, she says, well, housing, you know, housing's an issue. Well, we'll get you a house, you know. So I'm still waiting for Turtle Mountain to give me a call. I mean, hey, not even a FEMA trailer or anything. Jeez, you guys. But, you know, oh, there you go. You see, yes. But my roots are at Turtle Mountain, and I am so fortunate, right? You know, you hear things. You hear how, you know, it's this way, it's that way. I don't think people understand unless they've grown up there and know. We band together, right? And so as I get older, I'm currently in Montana, but my heart's home, right? And so the National Resource Center was such a perfect fit because, I mean, if, you know, when you talk about their methodology and the data, I am thrilled. How long has it taken us to even own our own data, right? So here we are with this project where the tribes own the data. And when we say that's their data, they can take that to the bank. Right? Right, Cynthia? Every day, that is it. They own that data. That data just belongs to that particular tribal community. It's custom fit, like a glove. So, you know, when you think about health disparities and finding funding, right? You can go to any funder and say, we have health disparities, social and health disparities. You know what they're gonna say? Show us. What's the numbers? What's the stats? So with this project, doing the custom fitting data results and stats, plugging that into grants, putting more food, nutrition grants, caregiver grants on the table is building resources. And it's owned by the Native people. I mean, talk about that methodology. Have we not needed that forever across the board? That's what the Resource Center does. I'm so blessed to have been able to be a part of that. And you know, we heard about community-based research, community-based participatory research. I love it. But this methodology is based on tribal participatory research. What does that mean? The tribes have oversight. Because when you think about the potential and the know-how and natives knowing their needs, who better to oversee, right? We are just the processors here. But it's, you know, so I have to say thanks to so many people here. The Rain Ladies, I gotta shout out They're known by the rain ladies, right? But don't let them fool you. They're quiet back there, but they bring the ruckus. They bring the ruckus, those ones over there. They do. And then I want to thank Brad, Michelle, and the others. Chris Bird, she's my soul sister, right? So, you know, we were lucky enough, we got to go on a fishing expedition with Margaret A. Cargill Foundation, right? They showed up one day, asked us a question, and went away. And so that fishing expedition started. We were lucky enough because that lady could write a heck of a proposal. We got funded for the Native Aging in Place project at Spirit Lake. And I tell you what, it was the pinnacle of my career because it helped Native elders live out their lives at home. How many times we hear of our elders saying, I don't want to leave. I want to be at home, right? My mother died at home at Turtle Mountain because I have a sister that's a nurse that took care of her 24/7. My brothers, we pitched in money to buy a Hoyer lift and a hospital bed because she never asked for anything other than that. So many Native elders want to be home. We don't even have a nursing home at Turtle Mountain. You know, usually they have to go to Rolette or out, you know. So that project is near and dear to my heart. So we have to bring our elders in. So many of our Native elders are isolated. And I'd seen some research about 10 years back that said loneliness directly impacts the physical health of an elder. Being lonely. And I thought, shame on us. A visit, a cup of coffee. I mean, so when you look at that, we have to bring our elders into the circle of our communities and care for them. And then the students, our Native students, let me tell you, they're bright. This young man, right, he calls me auntie, because that's the Native way. So I'm glad it's not grandma, though. Thank you for just auntie is fine. So you know what our tradition is back home, right, Lance? If you see your niece or nephew, you give them a little money. You give them $5. Maybe that's why I'm his auntie, you know, right? So as he's walking away, I tell him, no Red Bull, you buy water with that, bottled water. Because I work in health promotion, I can't have him buying Red Bull. But growing up on the reservation, we had to go to Indian Health Service. And it was hit or miss. It was crisis-based. You know, if you had a gunshot wound, you might be able to get to the ER. I mean, this is not really even being dramatic. It's true. We went when we had a major crisis. There was no prevention. Now today I work in health prevention, and I complained for years. And now I have to put my money where my mouth is because I'm working in health in prevention. And so what the health disparities research and what Dr. Warren was talking about in terms of health disparities, we have the ability standing here today to address it. We do. And so working with the Resource Center and working in health disparities and the students made me a much better person. And I thank Dr. Hart and others and Dr. Gray, so many others that allowed me to do that. So like I said, I grew up very poor. And my daughter, May, I've got to thank her because she's heard how poor we were all the time. What, you want socks? We never had socks. We had feet, right? And finally they say, oh, Mom. But we did. We grew up very poor, right? I don't think we knew how poor we were. But at the same time, we had one another, and we had that great potential. So I talk to the students now. My siblings, they didn't get to go to higher ed or college, but they worked hard. My father had a strong work ethic. You know, you work no matter what. If it's not there, you create it, kind of thing. Just don't ever not do anything, right? So I remember when I was coming to college, and my brother that brought me, the one that gave me $50, says to me, I told him, you know, I don't feel like I'm very smart to go to college. You know, I was trying to get out of it, I guess. And he says, listen. He said, here's what you do. He said, show up. Go to class every day. And I want the students to hear this because this got me through. Show up every day. Don't miss a class. I don't care how cold it is, you go to class. He said, and you will get a C. Just going to class, you can get a C. Imagine then, he said, do a little work, you get a B. And he says, you put your heart in it and you are going to get an A. He said, you're going to succeed because just showing up every day, you're going to get a C. And that philosophy, that concept got me through. And my father didn't know how to read and write. I didn't know that till I was older. He was very ashamed of it. And I remember finding an award letter he got. He worked for the Bureau in Facilities Management for 40 years. And I remember finding a certificate. He got an award certificate. And I got it framed. And with it came a little financial incentive, which back then must have been like, hey, it's Christmas, guys, right? And I framed it, and I put it in my office at the Center for Rural Health. I didn't put my diplomas. I put that letter because when I wanted to be lazy or take a shortcut, I read that letter. Imagine a man who couldn't read or write, but he could take a furnace apart and put it back together. And whatever they asked him to do, he did. That's how he succeeded. And that's how many of you and myself have gotten through. The stories that I tell are very similar to what I hear on how people got through. It's the resilience Dr. Warren is talking about. It's the potential. So I want the students to really hear that. So you're going to get an A, Mr. Eric. I'm going to write you a letter. But I am so proud of our Native students and non-Native students. Because if you look at them, they have the potential. They're not jaded, right, to some degree, where they just have that passion, and it's exciting, right? And the National Resource Center, when I was director and we worked with the students, they're bright, honestly. And another thing, and I got to pull Mr. Eric and Courtney into this too, because they're movers and shakers, right? And we have to encourage our young people to dream. Don't be afraid, and have integrity. We were lucky enough, I and Eric together is kind of dangerous, but we talked about, hey, we could get a little seed money from UND. So Eric says, well, yeah, this is what we need. Well, you do it, my boy. Auntie said, do it. So we got $5,000, right? And so when I said NAP is the pinnacle, this was another piece. So we got some money to start a Native Alba dissertation boot camp. I tell you what, we had about 10 natives that had gone back to their communities and went to work and put their dissertations aside, right? Guess what? Tomorrow, 2 of them are graduating with PhDs. So, yeah, Eric, right? So with that, I will end before that hook comes and pulls me away.
Hey, you did learn something from Brad.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to just add one thing that hasn't been emphasized a lot. The Aging Center has talked a lot about what it got from the rural center. But the reality is that it's made a certain kind of rural center we wouldn't have if it wasn't for the Aging Center. It added to the mission that we've got. It added for the togetherness we have as a group and working together and having more eyes and having a different perspective and stuff. So I guess I'd be one to say that the synergy between the two has really added a lot to both of the pieces. And I don't think we'd be the same without them, and I don't think they'd be the same without us. So we're just happy with the arrangement, and I think it's made both of us a lot better.
So we have one final honoree, but I just wanted to read for those of you that didn't get a chance to see what's on the award that we're giving them. It says, "A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way." And for each of the directors and the advocates that are getting the award, we wrote thank you in their tribal language. So in our tribal language, miigwech for your dedication for Native elders and for your vision and leadership in guiding NRCNAA to the path of success.
That's great. Our next and final recipient is Cynthia LaCounte, who, yeah, this applaud. And Cynthia is a proud member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa. She has been director of the Office for American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian programs since January 2012. She has oversight for Older American Act programs that serve American Indians, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians, and diverse elders of racial and ethnic heritage. Through her oversight, tribal elders and diverse elders of African American, Hispanic, Asian American, and Pacific Islander heritage, and LGBT elders benefit from OAA Title III and Title VI nutrition services. 3 resource centers dedicated to tribal populations and the 5-member National Consortium on Seniors Equity. Ms. LaCounte began her work with tribal elders in 1976. She has served as Area Agency on Aging Director for the Montana tribes and worked as advocate for American Indian elders, helping to improve their well-being by facilitating access to needed social and supportive services in many national, regional, and local program areas. Also, she has held the post of chairwoman for the Trenton Indian Service Area in western North Dakota and served as a national advocate for tribal elders. I think I can speak for our program in saying we wouldn't have a program without Cynthia. She is a tireless advocate. She thinks about advancing the cause for Native people and Native elders constantly. She is a force to be reckoned with. I am so proud that you're from North Dakota, and please come forward.
Thank you very much. This is such an honor and such a pleasure. And I am so blessed with the work that our Creator has allowed me to do these last many, many years. We all have stories of growing up. And I think the person in my life, or I know the person in my life who made the biggest difference for me was my grandma, my Indian grandma, Tressa Patra, who is just an amazing, amazing woman. And when I was in Trenton, I moved back home and was working in Trenton in the aging programs. And Grandma was one of the elders that we took care of. My grandma, my Uncle Jimmy, my Uncle Jerry, my Auntie Ruth. And that's what this program is. We all get paid to take care of our elders, our grandmas, our aunties, our uncles. It's absolutely phenomenal. And years ago when I was working in Wisconsin, for Great Lakes Intertribal Council, there was a tribal leader, Gashgabas, over at Lakoutere. And I had been working in aging then for 10, 15 years. And he said, you know what you need to do? Because I've always been able to work directly with elders. Even in this job, we fund elders, or the programs directly. We fund the tribes directly from my office. So that gives me interface with the tribal programs every day. But Gosh told me that I needed to get a notebook or a journal and write my thoughts as I'm leaving each tribe, because those hours spent with the elders is so incredible. And I said, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah, I'll do that. And I never did. And I think now about the stories that, and the wisdom and everything these people have shared with me. My gosh, I've been, like I said, totally blessed. And coming back to this resource center and the work that you've all been a part of, this is fantastic. We have 24 years of data about tribal elders. We laugh, and Alan and I used to chuckle on this, and Rick and I were chuckling tonight. You know, we used to go around to talk to Congress or to talk to people who were important or who thought they were. And we'd say, oh yeah, you know, our tribal elders need transportation and they don't have food. We're feeding them these meals. They get one meal a day. On weekends, they don't eat. And we have all this verbiage. And we knew we were right. But if they ask us for any documentation, we didn't have it. And now we do. And so now I have to really watch what I say and make sure that I know what I'm talking about. It's a much harder job. But this is so fantastic, this information. And it's been so much fun to see it come in. Now this year, Colette told me today that we've got more tribes we've ever worked with from this resource center. We've got more elders than we've served. So this growth is phenomenal. And the changes, like your table tents with the data. In the last year, we've started getting these infographics from out here. And they're fantastic. It's so much fun to go to my tribal council or tribal chairman meetings in Washington, D.C., or I go to meet with whatever committee on whatever it is that's a congressional committee, and I can show them this information now. And there's something that hasn't been mentioned tonight, at least if it was mentioned, I was sleeping and I missed it. They're going to start with urban elders. We're going to start collecting the same information on urban elders. I can't even fathom how you go into Chicago inner city and you find urban elders. I don't know how we're going to do this, so I gave it to Colette. Just like I used to tell you, here, do this. I gave this to Colette and said, here, you got 10 weeks. But this is going to, my word, the information we're going to have on tribal elders across the United States. And the method to my madness, which people in my bosses should have realized this is what I'm doing, when we get this data on urban elders, we're going to be able to impact the states and how they serve, because the Older Americans Act targets Indian elders. It says Title VI elders, it says American Indian elders, it doesn't say they even have to be enrolled. American Indian elders, and then we target rural, we target low income, we target those who don't speak English as a first language, we target low education. Our elders are these targeting factors. So this new information is going to impact how the states are serving people in urban communities. That's phenomenal. So when we have our 30th anniversary, she's going to be able to present some of this information on urban elders, which is just amazing. So thank you. And thank all of you for your role in this fantastic project that I get to claim. I'm so proud of the work you do and the information you've given us. Anything else I have to say, Paula said.
All right. Let's give give all of our recipients a round of applause. Thank you very much. Also, as we kind of make our final lap here, I do want to thank Dr. Adamson, Dr. Hart, and Mr. Gibbons for coming up and doing our presentations. So at this time, I would like for all of our awardees to be making their way up here. Anyone receiving awards from anyone? Sean, Brad, Richard, Twyla, Pamela, Cynthia, Kathy, Gina. If I didn't name anybody, please make your way up here to the very front. You guys don't worry, they're not going to speak no more. Line up right here. At this time, I want us to do this. I also want us to give, let's give our Red Region singers a round of applause over here. Thank you for that, brothers. So at this time, we would like to sing an honor song for our recipients this evening. So Lake Region, I give this to you. Ahoo. We would like to thank Leigh and the late Dr. Allery. We'd like to thank Dr. Richard Ludtke, Dr. McDonald. We'd like to thank Dr. Twyla Baker, Dr. Morin-Carter, Miss LaCounte. We'd like to thank you all for your service. I'd like to thank your families. you. Thank you there. Thank you. Lake Region Singers. You may be seated. You may be seated. Man, I wish I had stories about people. Hey, thank you guys for going into overtime with us this evening. I do appreciate that. We're going to try to get you out here the best that we can. Try to get y'all home so you guys can watch the fourth quarter of the Thunder game, the Oklahoma City Thunder game. I wish I had a bunch of stories about everybody. First of all, Brad, be sure to give that to Dr. McDonald, all right? I know you're going to put that up on your mantle. I know you will. I know Brad. He was supposed to, someone gave him a Pendleton blanket to give to me, and he still got it, so it's okay. It's okay. And then Twyla, I don't know what to say about Twyla. I mean, man, they're from like about 7 years. How's your youngest kid? 8. So 8 years ago, it was like before that, like 15 years ago, like every year I saw her, she had a new baby. I mean, it was crazy. Like every time I saw her, it's like, man, take a break. Good grief, Quit listening to Puff Daddy songs. Now I'm just joking. So, but I'm proud of all of you guys. It really phenomenal. Thank you guys all for the words of encouragement. With that being said, man, it truly is an honor for me to be able to serve, and it was a blessing tonight. Tough day. My best buddy from junior high and high school, man, he went on to be with the good Lord this afternoon. And you know what? Like just embrace and love every single day that you're given. And anybody that's going through something, whether it's cancer or whatever it may be, man, just all out. All out. One thing about my brother real quick, you all don't know him, but he's an angel now, but the cool thing about it was I watched him bury his mom. He watched me bury my mom, and I reached out to him about a month ago on his, I guess you could say, deathbed, and he said, Chance, you know what? I can be stressed out, and I can fight, and I can be sad and mad that I have cancer, or I could be happy and excited that I have this time to spend with my children. And that's how we have to look at things in life, is that we have to look at something that we can do something about instead of focus on the things that we can't do anything about. So this night was powerful. Your words were powerful. And I'm sorry, dang. I know some of you guys are like, good grief, we just heard Twyla and Paula, dang. So. And a little bit of Cynthia, dang, I'm really proud of my bros tonight, man. They were quick, innit? They got their awards. Hey, man, thanks, God bless, But geez, our sisters, long time ago. And I'm just joking. So please, let's welcome up our executive here. Let's give Dr. Colette Adamson a round of applause as she makes her final comments tonight.
Okay. So I just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I think it was truly a magical evening with a lot of great stories, and it's definitely memories that I'm going to hold dear to my heart. So I'd really like to thank everyone for being here. I do want to give a couple of acknowledgments. Thank you, President Wynn, for attending and always being so supportive of our programs. Dr. Warren for an amazing keynote speaking, can't talk. And then I'd also like to thank Dr. Hart, it's been a long night, I'm sorry, and Brad Gibbons for always being supportive of us. And then also I want to acknowledge my staff. They are amazing. Without them, this night wouldn't have been possible. So I'd like you guys to stand up. And Mandy, who has been amazing, she did all the table tents with Robin. Robin's not here. These guys helped put together this event. And plus, we processed 22,207 surveys by today. Well, it's supposed to be 3 years, but I swear it was the last 4 weeks. So, because their grants are due today. So that's pretty amazing. And then I also want to thank all the former directors and Rick and Cynthia for coming out and traveling all this way. One special shout out I want to say is to Cynthia. She is truly a role model for me, and if I could be half as good at the work she does in advocating for our elders, I think I'll be okay in this profession. So, thank you. So one thing I'd like to acknowledge is Senator Kramer's office. He did send a representative to attend, so we'd like to thank him. And then also, we contacted the governor's office, Governor Burgum's office, and we got a proclamation. So today, December 18th, 2019, is officially Native American Elder Recognition Day. And so I guess I'll read it really quickly. I hope I don't cry, because I did last time when I read it to my parents last night. So it says, whereas North Dakota recognizes our Native American and American Indian elders as valuable assets to our communities, and whereas in the Older Americans Act of 1965, in Section 418, Native American programs were written into law, and whereas in 1978, the Older Americans Act was amended to include Title VI, which established programs for the provision of nutrition and support services for Native Americans, American Indians, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians. And whereas the National Resource Center on Native American Aging is funded by the Administration for Community Living through the Older Americans Act, and whereas the NRCNAA was officially founded in 1994 and housed at the University of North Dakota's School of Medicine and Health Sciences within the Center for Rural Health Programs and Initiatives, and whereas in 2019, the NRCNAA is celebrating its 25th year of service to tribal organizations and communities, and whereas together the NRCNAA and North Dakota are committed to supporting tribal efficacy, bridging tribal to non-tribal relationships, enriching tribal research, and championing tribal elder issues locally, regionally, and nationally, and whereas this day is intended to honor American Indian elders and bring awareness to their needs. Now, therefore, as Governor of the state of North Dakota, I do hereby proclaim December 18, 2019, Native American Elder Recognition Day in the state of North Dakota. So thank you once again, and this has been an amazing night. And if we were back home at the res, I'd offer you to take a few plates home, but apparently they cleared out the food, so sorry. So here's to the next 25 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adamson. Man, you know, two things I learned tonight. The first one was age well, and you know, I'm gonna stick to that. Everybody had good stuff to say tonight, but I heard someone say age well, so that's what I'm gonna do. Because Dr. Adamson told me, you know, I thought maybe she said, "Man, I seen you on YouTube," or "Man, you know, you look like an actor that can turn into a wolf or something." I really thought she was gonna say something like that, but instead she said, "Man, Chance, the first time I saw you, I was waiting for it, you know, because I'm trying hard, you know, to get into movies and to do that. I really am. That's what I do full time for a living, is this, and try to get into movies. I don't care what type of movie I get in. I mean, if I get ran over by a buffalo, I don't care. I just want to get in a movie. I auditioned for Killers of the Flower Moon about a month ago with Leonardo DiCaprio. So I've been going at it, man, full time. That's what I do for a living. And but Colette, man, she put me in my place. She said, "Oh my God, the first time I saw you is I was like 17, and you came to my high school." And man, it just like threw me off. Like, dang, man. I mean, don't remind me of things like that. Good grief, you know. So we got to get out of here. We're going to do three things real quick. We're going to, well, not real quick. We're going to do this the right way. I'm going to turn us over here to the bros here. They're going to do our flag song, followed by post 262, and then I'll close out with a word of prayer. So if we can all do this together, you know, it would really, that's important for all of us to do that. So if you could please rise at this time. And right at this time, I want to go back over here to Lake Region. I'm going to turn this over to you for our flag song, followed by American Legion Post 262 of Belcourt, North Dakota. I'll turn it over to you, and when you're done, I'll close us out. So at this time, Lake Region, ahoo. Retirement of Colors by American Legion Post number 262, Belcourt, North Dakota.
Squad up. Right base. Hand salute. Two, retrieve your colors. Left base. Forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, our American flag, Senator Richard Marcellus, U.S. Army, our tribal flag, Bill Peterson, Navy, our North Dakota flag, Lance Azar, U.S. Army, and our Legion flag, Joe Vega, Air Force and U.S. Army. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for American Legion Post 262. Congratulations on 25 years and another 25 to come. It was truly an honor to serve in this capacity this evening. I want to wish you all the best as you travel home. Whatever's on your heart, whatever you're going through, just give it to Creator, and we'll all come back together. We'll all do this again. And to all the recipients, to anyone here, whatever it may be, may you have a good holiday season, and if you can, just for me all the way up until the 28th, if you find it in your heart, pray for the Oklahoma Sooners. Let us pray. Creator God, we come to you this evening. We just thank you again as we go home, as we close out, that we all take our responsibilities and our callings, and that we touch lives and we continue to make a difference. We just want to thank you for our drum group, Creator Heavenly Father, for the soul and the beat of who we are and what we represent in the language, the tobacco that was placed on the drum earlier this evening, and the individuals who were backing up the singing, Creator God. Just thank you for our colors. We just ask you to be with Post 262 as they continue to provide their services for events all across Turtle Island, Creator God. We just ask you to be with the staff. We ask you to be with each person in this room this evening. Thank you for the caterers. Thank you for the sound. Thank you for the facility, Creator God. And Creator God, just again, I don't mean to be selfish, but thank you for putting me in this position so that I could be a witness, and I can learn and I can absorb, Creator God. Be with us as we all go our separate ways, and be with our families, Creator God. In your precious name we pray. Amen. Ahu. Mazagratz. All right. We'll see you on the 26th. God bless. Give yourself a round of applause. Y'all did it. All right. Give us some Christmas music and let's go home.